Welcome to my April wrap-up. April was a very interesting month for me. I managed to read 14 books. However, a lot of them were not the best or just very mid. I did not have any new favorites this month, sadly, but I did happen to read a lot for it being the month where I had my finals. So for like a week, I didn't read anything. So for me to have still read 14 books is pretty crazy. But let's go ahead and jump into the very basic stats that I have. So like I said, I read 14 books for a total of 3,326 pages, and I had a 3.39 average rating, which is not the best, but it is what it is. 8 of these books I had borrowed from the library, and the other 6 were ones that I had already owned. I want to include this stat just because I think it's interesting to see how many books I'm reading that are on my actual TBR and how many I'm picking up from the library. I do love supporting my library, but my own TBR is over 100 books, and I do want to try and get that lower this year. But on to the books that I read. The first one that I want to talk to you guys about is Starter Villain by John Scalzi. This one I had given 3.5 stars to. This is a sci-fi book. It is on the shorter side for like sci-fi books, but this one was very fun. We are following our main character who has this estranged relationship with his uncle, and when his uncle passes away, he ends up leaving our main character everything, and that includes his villainous business. His uncle was a villain who was like the best in the entire world, and so our main character has to grapple with people trying to kill him, and he has to take over this business. We have a lot of different talking animals because that was his uncle's specialty, was making talking animals, and so even our main character's own cats that he has been living with in his house, they're like animals who actually run the business with him, and it's just very fun. I was very entertained the entire time reading it. I do think, like I said, it was on the shorter side. I would have personally loved this book to have been a little longer, but overall this was a very fun read. A Mouthful of Dust by Nghi is one I also gave 3.5 stars to, and this is book 6 in the Singing Hills cycle. This series is made up of very short novellas, and I think this one specifically was even under 100 pages, but this one is following our main characters, Cleric Chi and Almost Brilliant. They have been our main characters this entire series, but these two are going to this town in order to hear stories all about this infamous famine that has been going on. And again, with novellas, I always just want more from them. I, of course, love the series. I have made it this far into it. I don't think I've ever had like a favorite from this series just because they're so short and I just want more from them, but I will continue reading on the series. This one I really enjoyed the conversations that we had in here. I, of course, love our characters and getting to see them again. I don't want to say too much because, again, it is very short and I don't want to spoil anything, but I recommend this series if you are looking for like very short, like fantastical stories and that have like a lot of commentary in them. I think this would be a series you could really love. I also read A Physical Education by Casey Johnston this month, which I gave 4 stars. This is probably my favorite book that I have read this month. I absolutely loved the story. This one is a nonfiction book. It is the author's memoir, all about her experience with diet culture and how exercise has played a big part in that. She talks about her life and how she was very into running and different cardios and how she was always looking for her next diet or quick fix exercise routine. And one day she ends up giving weightlifting a try and she falls in love with it. And along with weightlifting, she had to grapple with her body and what she wanted from her body. She talks a lot about how with weightlifting, there's a lot of fear for women of bulking up and getting bigger muscles. And for a lot of women, that's not what they want and that's not the beauty standard. And she talks about how her love for weightlifting got her out of that way of thinking, and it got her to get out of diet culture because she had to change the way she was eating and she actually had to consume more calories than she was used to. And I just really love this book. I really love memoirs where you can see how much the author is passionate about something, and I have never really read a book about weightlifting, And so I found this one very fascinating. I loved seeing this author's journey. I thought it was very well written, and I would just really recommend giving this one a try if it sounds up your alley. I thought it was really amazing. Another nonfiction that I read this month was Love Machines by James Muldoon. This one I gave 3.5 stars, and this one was very interesting. I had a lot of mixed opinions while reading this one. This one is exploring AI relationships and is talking a lot about these different people who get into different types of relationships with AI. There's a lot of conversations about the people building these AIs that are made specifically so people can have relationships with them, whether that's like romantic relationships, friendships, therapists. This book also touches on, I want to say they're like death bots or something like that, where people can still talk to their dead loved ones in the form of an AI. And I thought this one was very fascinating. It was definitely a hard read. I think anything on this topic that you can picture of how weird some of these stories could get, I think it gets even weirder. And I was listening to the audiobook of this one, and it was just a very hard listen for just how much certain people have got these weird relationships with AI. And I think the author does a really good job of not letting his bias show in his reporting of all this. I will definitely say I have a lot of bias against it. I don't like AI. I definitely don't love generative AI. And I definitely think there is a lot of danger of people having comfort in talking to something that is not real. But I think the author did a really good job of just giving us the straight facts of this, giving us these people's stories, and it was just very fascinating. And I don't really know if it's one I would recommend, at least for audio. I don't think the audiobook narration was the best, but the story itself I definitely think is something worth reading and exploring, and it definitely made me think a lot on this topic. But yeah, I gave this one 3.5 stars. And I did read a third nonfiction this month, and that is Freedom of Speech by Christopher M. Finan, which I gave 4 stars. I believe this one is only on audio, if I'm not mistaken, but this is another short book. I want to say the audiobook was only 5 hours, but this one is exploring the history of freedom of speech in the United States. It's following from when it first got put into the Constitution to present day, different ways it has been challenged, different ways it has been protected, and I just found it very fascinating to learn about. I think if you're looking for a historical or political nonfiction book, this one is definitely one to give a try. I learned so much from this one, and I thought it was really well done. And then I read Do I Know You by Emily Wibberly and Auston Siegmund-Broka. This is a adult romance book following our 2 main characters, Eliza and Graham, and they are on their 5-year wedding anniversary, but they are actually having some marital problems. They are not really able to communicate with each other the way they used to, and these characters just feel like they don't know each other anymore, and they're having a lot of hard time like opening up to each other because of that. So they're at this all expenses paid resort that was paid for by Graham's parents, and things are very awkward, but they end up deciding to pretend like they don't know each other for their entire vacation, and to pretend that they're just meeting for the very first time, that they're dating for the very first time. And because of this, they're able to relearn things about each other and open up again. And yeah, I gave this one 3.5 stars. I thought it was really cute and really fun. I read this one on the beach, and I thought this was like perfect for that like very light, very fun beach read kind of vibes. And while there are some harder like family issues, overall it's just about these characters figuring out their relationship problems with each other. And yeah, I thought it was very fun. My main complaint of why I didn't rate this one higher is just because this whole book is about these characters not being able to communicate, and already for me, the miscommunication trope is not my thing, but I think this one did a good job of turning that trope on its head. However, near the very end, it's not like a third act breakup, obviously, because these characters are married, but there is this like very big conflict near the end that I just feel was kind of unnecessary. And again, they were already learning how to communicate. I just felt like at this point having that conflict was just very unnecessary. And yeah, that's kind of what brought my rating of this one down, but I do still think it's a fun one to check out if you're interested in it. And I would also read more things by these authors. Also, I think this is a husband and wife author duo, which I think is a very cool concept. Okay, I actually read another nonfiction book this month, and that is This Radicalize You by Mariame, Kaba, and Kelly Hayes. This book is a lot about how to get into activism and to work with organizational groups that do activism work, different nonprofit groups. However, for me, this book was a bit of a disappointment. I gave it 2 stars. This just really did not work for me. I don't really think I learned a lot or took a lot away from this book, which is really what I wanted from something that's teaching you how to do something. But I think this book hinged too much on stories about activism, stories from activists, and I just didn't feel like these stories really inspired me. They were just stories that I was reading. I didn't really feel any emotion while reading them, and I kind of just slogged my way through this book because I owned it. I would have loved a lot more of practical information, or for this to have been more like a guide. I think that would have worked a lot better for what the authors were trying to do. But I do have a lot of respect for these authors. I have read a book by Mariame, Kaba before, and I really enjoyed it. So yeah, this one just didn't work for me. I also read a bit of manga in April, so I read Hunter x Hunter Volumes 2 and Volume 3. I gave both of these ones 3 stars, and then I also read Volume 4, which I gave 4 stars. Since these are later volumes in the series, I don't want to go into them too much and give away any spoilers, but so far I'm not really sure how I'm feeling about this series. I do love the anime, and if you saw my March wrap up, you'll saw that I read Volume 1 then, and that I really love this anime series, and so I really wanted to give the manga a try. However, I'm just not sure how I feel about it so far. There are definitely some changes, and some of it is just very much panel for panel what's in the anime, and so I'm not really sure how I feel. I definitely think for more action type of manga, I definitely prefer the anime just because it's more fun, I guess. You have the music and the vibes going, and for the manga, I just don't get those same feelings while reading those action scenes, I guess. But yeah, I did read those volumes, and those were all the volumes that my library had. I've been waiting for these volumes from my library for quite a while now, but who knows how long it'll be till more volumes come out. So for right now, this series is kind of just on pause for me. And then I started Tamon's B-Side. I read Volume 1, which I gave 4 stars. This is a series that a couple of my friends have been telling me to read, and this first volume was very fun. We are following this girl who is a big K-pop fan, specifically of this one group, and specifically she is in love with Tamon, who is the lead singer of this specific K-pop band. And one day she ends up getting assigned, she's a housekeeper, but she ends up getting assigned to Tamon's house to be his housekeeper, and it's a very interesting dynamic in that she's his biggest fan. And while his onstage personality is that he is very confident, in private, he is very depressed. And so our main character is helping him through it because, of course, she's his biggest fan. She doesn't want to see him be sad. She wants to see him be successful and to have everything. And so Volume 1 was very fun, a very interesting dynamic, not like anything I've read before. Just a fun time. I also read Volume 2, which I ended up giving 2 stars. In this one, we do get another member of the band who ends up appearing, and he also is this two-faced kind of character where his onstage persona doesn't match who he is in real life. And in this volume, I kind of realized that the series is going to be a little too melodramatic for me. As fun as it is in Volume 2, I just kind of got annoyed and I didn't really care. Even though I loved how fun and kind of silly the whole premise was, I do need some more parts that are grounded in reality. I just don't think you can have fun and silly the entire time without having any substance to it, I guess. So yeah, I don't think I'll be continuing in the series just because I feel it's not going to be for me, or that I'm just going to have to be in the right mood for it. So yeah, as much as I enjoyed Volume 1, I just don't think this series is going to be for me personally. This month I also read Funny Story by Emily Henry, which I gave 3.5 stars. And this one I'm not going to talk about too much just because I did do an Emily Henry reading vlog where I read 3 of her books. This was the very last one that I read, but I will have that video in the cards and in the description below if you want to check it out. But this book is following these 2 characters who both get out of very long-term relationships because both of their partners ended up getting together. So these 2 characters are now forced to live in the same apartment together. They didn't really know each other before, and so it's a lot of forced proximity, but then in order to make their exes jealous, they start posting these photos that sort of suggest that they are dating, and things go from there. But I'll leave my opinions to that vlog in case you want to hear me talk more about it. Similarly, we have Plant Lady by Minyoung Kang, which I gave 4 stars. This one doesn't come out until August 4th. It is an arc that I read early. I am currently in the middle of doing a vlog where I talk about this one. I'm doing a vlog where I read all of my arcs that I have. Well, not all of them, where I read 5 of my upcoming arcs that I have, and this is one of them. This one is a mystery thriller sort of book that is translated from Korean. I really enjoyed this one. This one is specifically following our main character. She has recently quit her job to open up this plant shop, which is her dream. She loves plants, and along with opening up this plant shop, she ends up getting into some bad relationships with men, and because of this she ends up becoming known to other women as someone who can help them get rid of their abusive partners. And so I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 4 stars. If you're looking for like the feminine rage kind of stories where women are getting their revenge, this is going to be the perfect book for you. But again, I'll leave more of my thoughts for that upcoming video. It should come out in the next couple of weeks, so stay tuned for that. But those are the 14 books that I read in April. Thank you guys so much for making it this far into the video. Definitely let me know what books you read in April, if you had any new favorites that you read, and if any of the books I mentioned you have read. I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions on them. But thank you again for making it this far in the video. If you enjoyed, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye!